Good morning, YouTube. Sean, the average angler here, and we are here to catch you up on our fishing trip and tournament. So this is going to be a report and tournament recap. Okay, I'll give you the tournament recap first to get you to hang out longer for the fishing report. Because actually, we had a great practice. Found several schools of fish. We had 12 to 14 pounds each day. And that was without really working our spots. So we were feeling good that we had found what we needed to find, and we were going to have a good tournament. What we did know was the weather was going to change. Problem was the weather took its biggest toll on the anglers, meaning me and Kevin. Okay, we were not prepared for what we had to deal with. In our advanced age of fishing, I think we've gotten a little complacent, perhaps, maybe, and I don't know. I didn't have the proper gear. Clothing-wise, I was fine, but the older you get, the tougher and tougher it is on your hands. My thumb tip this morning is still tingling. It's not even morning now. It's the football's on. So yeah, it's I ordered some new gloves, try and find something that's going to work a little better. I had some merino wool gloves. They were great for years and years, but they had Velcro. So when you flap the mitts back, the Velcro would no longer stick, and as I was reeling, it would flap over, get caught in the reel. It was a nightmare. So I had to take them off. And just for the weather conditions we had on tournament day, it was probably 34, 35 degrees. In the morning, probably 12 to 15 mile per hour winds and rain, with gusts to 25. So I was fine for a while until I had to take the gloves off. And my hands got so cold, they really became dysfunctional. I could no longer push the push bar down on my bait casters. I couldn't grab the handle and reel on the bait casters. Couldn't put a worm on a hook, for that matter. Couldn't retie a bait. And that went on for, I don't know, until after 12. And Kevin was the same way. Kevin actually put a worm on using a pair of pliers. That's how bad it was for us. And it was just one of those days of what could go wrong will go wrong. And I like to blame that on being prepared. Quite honestly, we were not prepared for the conditions we were going to face. So first thing in the morning, we had a fish in the box. Nothing like what we had been catching, but it was a decent fish, and it was a fish, right? Until you get a limit, they're all good fish. I'm recovering, folks. Don't judge. We pulled up on our spot, and there was a lot of active fish. We could see the fish were active. They're swimming, they're moving around. And so instantly we go to reaction. Kevin's throwing a hover rig, and I'm throwing a Megabass Spark Shad on a 1/2 ounce, and I'm just casting it out there and engaging the reel. And sure enough, it gets crushed as it's pendulum down. And it's like a 2.5, 2 3/4 pound smallie. I get it to the boat, and it's still digging. It's not done. And Kevin tried to stab at the fish, and it got knocked up under the boat. And I think what it did was the line got caught on the bow eye, and we lost the fish. Is what it is. It wouldn't have made a difference. We needed a limit of those to, and then some bigger ones to even be in contention. So, it is what it is. It's first time Kevin and I fished tournaments in a while together. Brutal conditions, and we just weren't prepared. Anyway, we ended up with a limit. The fish moved a little deeper. It took us a long time to figure that out. After 1 o'clock, the sun came out, and I was able to put a worm on and all that kind of stuff. So we ended up getting a limit. We called a couple times, and we weighed 8 1/4 pounds. Pretty disappointing, since our practice, we had 12 to 14 pounds every day, and a limit of 2+ pounders was no big deal. I mean, that was easy. So what did we do, where, and how did we catch them? All right, water's right around 51, 52 degrees. I was actually kind of surprised it was that warm for Shasta this time of year. We got some brutal, cold, wet storms coming. The Pro-Am this week's going to have to face it again. Anyway, for the bigger bites I got, it was on a tube. Problem was, it wasn't off the bottom. The way I rig it causes it to spiral down, and I caught quite a few fish doing that, and they were all tournament fish, 2.5+ pound fish. But to me, that's sketchy. And needless to say, in the tournament, I didn't catch one on the tube. The other bait that I didn't catch anything on in practice that became a player during the tournament was the jig. I didn't have, I think I had 1 jig bite in 2 days of practice. And on tournament day, they ate the jig just fine. Anyway, our key players, 1/4 ounce frenzy nail with 4.5 to 7 inch worm. Now, color has changed day to day. You just had to kind of find the color, and you knew when you found the color because they ate it fast and often. And it just, it took us a long time. I caught so many fish on a 6-inch robo worm MM3 on the second day of practice that I had a really tough time setting it down. Which is too bad, because once I did, I caught some fish pretty quick. Unfortunately, that wasn't until 2 o'clock in the afternoon when my hands worked enough to put a new bait on the hook. So, lesson number 1, Sean ordered 2 pairs of gloves this morning because we have to alleviate that. And who knows, maybe I'll never fish in the cold again. I don't know. Just by dumb chance since I bought them. But anyway, I got some new gloves coming. So the shaky head was a prime player, 1/4 ounce, throwing it on a, what was I throwing that on? Oh, a Powell Inferno, which isn't made anymore, but honestly, it's a $100 rod, 6'10", medium. I was nailing them, as Greg Gutierrez likes to say. Straight up through the roof of the mouth, right out the freaking top of the head. All the power in the world to pull these fish to the boat. And yeah, we're good. And it was just really a worm of your choice. Green pumpkin, MM3, Dirty Sanchez, Payback, which is a brown and purple, brown and June bug. They all worked at various times. You just had to kind of keep changing up to find out what they wanted at the time for us. We didn't do a very good job of that, again, for reasons I've already explained. The Swimbait. The Swimbait bite produced some better fish. I was throwing a 4-inch spark shad, and I believe the color they call it real. Just looks like a shad, okay, bait fish. I was throwing that on a 1/2 ounce jig head. The underspin didn't seem to work for us. They wanted a naked, if you will. So the 1/2 ounce jig head with the 4-inch spark shad in reel was my ticket for the swim baits. The A-rig bite never went for us. The first 2 days were gorgeous out. I threw a bladed rig. On day 3, quite honestly, my hands weren't functional enough for me to even throw. Still, like I said, the thumb is still tingling from here up. It'll be fine. Anyway, we fished the McLeod quite a ways up. So our plan was to target backs of river arms following the temperature. We found schools in the back of the pit, which we didn't go to in the tournament, and that was probably our big mistake. And then we found schools in the back of the McLeod. We didn't go up to Sacramento because we knew the majority of boats would be going that way, and they did. But there was good fish in the McLeod, not a lot of traffic. There was good fish in the pit. I don't know how much traffic because we didn't go on tournament day. The plan was to go to the McLeod, hit that for an hour or two, and then head to the pit. And we were so cold and debilitated. I mean, I had to lay down on the deck of the boat to try and get the pain out of my back on several occasions. We both have active hernias, and we're just a wreck. Anyway, yeah, the pain was excruciating. I honestly used to keep ibuprofen in the boat and take it the start of the day. It's a practice I'm going to have to get back into. When wearing my rain gear and stuff, all the weight on the shoulders, and I think the cold weather makes my shoulders and upper back, mid back painful and tight. So anyway, what else did we catch them on? So on game day, the jig produced pretty well. And then a Zoom finesse worm, shaky worm, swamp crawler, yeah. And green pumpkin, purple flake, green pumpkin. The Dirty Sanchez is a green pumpkin, and then a light green chartreuse, if you will, on the other half of it. That one got eaten pretty quick. Yeah, so that's kind of the wrap. Oh, depth, key thing. 30 to 35 foot in practice, and on game day, they appeared to have moved a little deeper. Fish were found in 40 to 45 foot, and it took us way too long to figure that out. We did have a brush pile in the McLeod, and there was a school of crappie over the top of it, but underneath was a school of big bass. And in practice, I stuck 2 of them, shook off quite a few, and I cast into that brush pile probably 20 times, never hung up. Well, on tournament day, I hung up every cast, except the one where I got bit, set the hook, the rod loaded, and I could not find the handle with my hand, which I had no feeling. And it ended up getting off because it got slack in the line after the rod loaded. So anyway, my bad, no excuse. We weren't prepared. That is the facts. But if you can find brush piles in the right depth on Shasta right now, there are some gorditas down there. There's just not a lot of them, at least that I know of. The other thing, we were fishing up in the pit. We went way back up in the pit, and we found some sheer walls where the river came right up against them. And it was loaded. I mean, it was loaded with all sizes of fish. They ate fast. We never went in the tournament. It was something we discussed the night before on what our plan was going to be. How I felt about that compared to the other spot basically came down to, I didn't think we needed it. Hindsight, probably should have started there. But, you know, you live and you learn. That's why tournaments are so difficult, because it comes down to decision making, and we made the wrong decisions. We weren't prepared. Had we been prepared, we probably would have been able to move around a lot more and change things up. We may have figured the bite out a little sooner than what we did. Anyway, to the people fishing the new gen Pro-Am coming up, you got some more weather coming, so I will say make sure you have a good pair of gloves that you can wear while you're fishing. Fish a shaky head. Neko rig Senko if the wind's not up too high and you can fish it. They're on a worm bite, as far as I could tell. The Swimbait, they don't seem to be chasing bait too much. I wasn't on school's bait. We looked and looked and looked and looked, and the bait that we found was 70 plus feet deep. Now, I don't know, maybe guys are fishing that deep. I didn't try it. Probably my bad, but I didn't see fish in them either. I just saw big balls of bait out right on the edge where it came up out of the river. And it could be 70 to 120 feet. It just seemed to be where they were at. Like I said, we ran all the way up to the back of the McLeod. We ran all the way up to the back of the pit. Didn't find fish until we got out a little ways, basically where the water temperature change happened. Textbook stuff. All right. Thanks for watching. Orville is the beginning of February, and we will be needing to redeem ourselves because we finished crappy. No pun intended. Thanks for watching.